I'm here with Alexandra Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Alexander, let's talk about what the Obama White House was doing, or better yet, who was visiting the Obama White House. And that would be one Alexandra Chalupa and another guy whose name we're not going to say. We can't.
No, we're not going to say. We've been advised that it's very, very inappropriate.
So
for us to say his name. So we're not going to say. Okay then, Alex. Yes. Well,
ridiculous. Ridiculous, guys. Yeah. Anyway, just so we get this video on YouTube, because we want to hit YouTube and BitChute, guys. Remember to follow us on BitChute. But anyway, let's begin. From Sarah Carter, Alexander, the gossip. Here's her title: Gossip blower and DNC contractor visited Obama White House. It must be investigated. Let me read you the first two paragraphs, and then you can comment on what's going on here. And bear with me as I switch around some words. A controversial gossip blower who allegedly reported secondhand on President Donald Trump's private conversation with the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky visited the Obama White House on numerous occasions, according to Obama-era visitor logs obtained by Judicial Watch. Last week, Real Clear Investigations first reported on the gossip blower's name. It is allegedly some guy named some guy. His name, however, has been floating around Washington, D.C. since the leak of Trump's phone call. It was considered an open secret, YouTube and Facebook, until reporter Paul Sperry published his article. The guy's name has never openly stated that he is the gossip blower, and most outlets are not reporting his name publicly out of fear from the social media tech overlords. Alexandra, I added in some words there. Take it away. What's going on here? Let's get to the story.
Can we just explain that we have been informed that it will be against some person's guidelines if we actually refer to this person by name. And if you've seen some of our videos are no longer being shown, well, that's the reason. But there we are. Let's focus on the underlying story here. What this shows is that there was extraordinary amount of contact between the Obama White House in 2016 and various people. One of them is this individual, Alexandra Chalupa. Now, Alexandra Chalupa was working at the DNC. She is a Ukrainian American. She was a bridge between the DNC and the Ukrainian embassy. And the Ukrainian embassy, or rather Ukrainian officials in Ukraine, have confirmed that they were getting requests for help during the 2016 election from the DNC, and that it was those requests for help that partly resulted in this black ledger, the so-called black ledger appearing, which was used to embarrass Paul Manafort, who was Donald Trump's campaign manager, and force him to resign. This black ledger is a ledger which alleges various payments on the part of the former Ukrainian president, Viktor Yanukovych, and his party, secret off-account payments which were allegedly made to Paul Manafort. There are increasing doubts, I should say, about whether this black ledger is a real document or whether it has been faked. That's one thing that we know Chalupa was to some extent involved with. We know that she was, as I said, speaking for the DNC to the Ukrainians. What we now discover is that she was also coming, and apparently on a regular basis, to the White House, to Obama's White House. And so it turns out was this other individual who we cannot name. And despite the fact, as Sarah Carter says, everybody in Washington knows what his name is, and it's already circulated in alternative media. But we're not allowed to name him. But I think many of our viewers know who we're talking about we're talking about the person who's been referred to as the whistleblower, whose complaint started this whole impeachment case. He's the person who complained about the telephone conversation between Donald Trump, President of the United States, and Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on 25th July 2019.
Sorry, Alexander.
Right. You were looking as if some of it had been lost.
No, let's go. No, I got it all. Let's go.
You good?
All right, sorry, Alexander. The whole thing is just stupid. The whole this whole Ukraine gate thing, this whole narrative, this guy that you can't. It's so dumb. This is so absolutely dumb.
Absolutely
Dumb.
Well,
dumb.
Yes.
Anyway,
it's becoming increasingly so.
Dumb. So dumb.
Dumb. I know.
To the Democrats, do they even see how dumb they're making the entire thing look?
Yes.
The media, the mainstream media, how dumb anyway. Alexandra Chalupa, 27 times at the White House. 27 times.
Yes.
What the hell was she doing there?
Well, is that a question?
Absolutely.
Okay. Can you say that again? Or I can just go
27 times. 27 times, Alexander. What was she doing at the White House?
Well, indeed. What indeed was she doing at the White House? Having tea with someone? Being guided round the West Wing? I mean, I have to say, if she visits it 27 times, clearly she's meeting someone. And my guess is she's either seeking that person's advice or reporting to them. And of course, when I say person, there may have been multitudes of different people. And no doubt she was providing information and was being provided with information. And highly likely, I would have thought, over the course of some of these meetings, she may have met and spoken to the same person whose name we are not allowed to disclose, who, of course, had also a role in the Obama White House at that time.
So this is a coordinated effort to take down Trump. Let's put it in some context. This is when he was campaigning. This is a coordinated effort to knock him out. In other words, to knock out Manafort and then knock out Trump. That was the plan here. Go after Manafort, and then you're going to take down Trump. Correct?
Yes. That's exactly what it was. Can I just say, I think that was Plan A. Plan A was to embarrass Trump. This is in early summer 2016, after all the WikiLeaks published the emails, the DNC emails. The plan was to say that he's a Russian asset, and then use an attack on Manafort to discredit Trump. So Trump would either cling on to Manafort and they'd both go down in flames together, or Manafort would go down in flames, dragging Trump down with him. Instead, what happened, and I think this is where this whole plan went completely and disastrously wrong, is that Manafort resigned, so he did go down in flames, and Trump just went on getting stronger. And I think this is where they decided that they needed to start playing their cards even more aggressively. And you start seeing things like some point in August 2016, the CIA, that's to say Director Brennan at the CIA, sends this extraordinary letter to Obama in a sealed envelope that, he's had this information from this man, this spy who is in the Kremlin, which apparently corroborates this dossier that Christopher Steele is churning out. Turns out that this particular spy isn't actually in the Kremlin, but is actually working somewhere else and doesn't actually have direct contact with Putin. But, never mind. That was apparently what was alleged in that envelope. And, of course, that then leads in early October to the intelligence community publishing this extraordinary statement. And remember, this is the intelligence community of the United States, the US's own intelligence community, then publishes this extraordinary statement saying that the Russians are helping Donald Trump to win the election. So that's plan B when, as I said, the first attempt to bring down Trump with the attack on Manafort fails, they go for this other one. And at some point, the wires get crossed because, of course, they also broadcast this extraordinary Pussygate sound recording of Donald Trump apparently bragging about, his sexual achievements, which, if you remember, also came out at around that time. So we see all sorts of things going on, but then to their astonishment and horror, Trump just goes on and gets stronger. And eventually, as we know, he wins the election. But it does look to me as if we're starting to get the initial pieces now of a coordinated campaign. And what Sarah Carter has provided is bringing us closer now to the White House and ultimately, and I have to say this, to Barack Obama himself.
Yeah, Sarah Carter is getting close to Obama.
Yeah, exactly.
It's very obvious. And unlike everything else that's being said about the Ukraine-Gate hoax, this is fact, people. I mean, we have documented visitor logs in much the same way that you had documented logs of who was on the Lolita Express and the Epstein planes. We have visitor logs who was entering the White House. Yeah. So we know how many times Chalupa and this other dude were going to the White House. I mean, it's you can't dispute it.
No.
And if this is taking place in 2016, Alexander, once again, my mind turns to Barr.
Yeah.
And the fact that he needs to investigate what was happening in Ukraine and what was happening in the UK and what was happening in Australia in coordination with the UK. I mean, this entire Russiagate, Ukraine-gate coup attempt, even going back before Trump was even in office, originated in these three countries.
Yes.
You can't dispute this anymore.
Yes. So I tell you what I think is going to happen. This is what I think the sequence of events is going to be. Before very long, we're going to get Michael Horowitz's long postponed report published, and that is going to outline a long history of Pfizer abuse right through the 2016 election, and it's going to recommend indictments. We're then going to see the first series of indictments appearing, and I mean, they're going to include some people we've been talking about, but people still very much on the periphery of the whole Russiagate story. People like McCabe, people possibly like Peter Strzok, but also various people like that, conceivably even some of the bigger fish like James Comey and Rod Rosenstein. We've mentioned these names before. Then we're going to move to a further series of indictments, probably early next year. And then at some point, as this thing starts to gather pace, with more people being called in and with more, because each indictment can be used to build further for more investigations. We're going to see more public investigations involving what's going on in various countries. And I predict that at some point there will be calls. It'll be very interesting to see what Barr does, but there will be calls for Durham and Barr to question Barack Obama himself.
You think it's going to actually go to Obama? I mean, that's astonishing. It should. It should go to Obama because obviously, once again, we have the logs. We know that the Obama White House was up to all kinds of no good.
Yes.
But do you think they're going to actually call in Obama? I mean, that's all-out war then, I think.
Right. Well, it is. Between
the Dems and...
Well, Alex, it already is all-out war.
Yeah,
we have an impeachment underway.
Yeah,
but putting that aside, putting aside any political and partisan issues, if you are going to see this investigation through to a proper conclusion, I think you have to call in the ultimate decision maker, who was the person who has been provided with all that information, who is Barack Obama himself. I don't really see how you can avoid asking him questions about what he knew and when he knew it. What did the president know and when did he know it? That is, of course, the big Watergate question. I mean, we know that he knew quite a lot by August when Director Brennan was sending him all of these, this sealed envelope with all this, as it turns out, wrong information. But he must have made certain further decisions subsequently. And in fact, we know he did, because back in June 2017, I remember reading this gigantic article in the Washington Post about all the various steps that were then taken by the Obama administration in response to the supposed Russian meddling campaign and the debates that happened about what kind of sanctions to impose on Russia. And that in itself begs questions about what Obama was doing. That is the public information about, the response to Russia. But it's not credible, it seems to me, that Obama didn't also know and wasn't being kept informed about the other side of what was going on, which was the attack on the Trump campaign, the surveillance of the Trump campaign, the way in which members of the Trump campaign were increasingly being placed under surveillance. And of course, the fact that the US intelligence community in October, a month before the election, published this extraordinary statement, basically saying that, well, not basically, saying quite openly, in fact, that the Russians were trying to help Donald Trump.
Everyone was being placed under surveillance, Alexander. Even Yovanovitch, when she was ambassador in Ukraine, requested a whole list of journalists to be placed under surveillance, including Sarah Carter. So I think Sarah Carter is now really going to go after them. I mean, that's my hunch. I think she's going to go after the White House very, very aggressively, and she's going to dig up something. I can see it. She's getting close.
Alex, what happened during the Obama administration as the 2016 election drew closer? It got completely out of control. We see surveillance being carried out on an absolutely prolific scale. We see agents provocateurs like Mifsud and Stefan Harper being used ever more aggressively to try to create trouble against the Trump administration. We see US allies being drawn in also to help the Democrats win that election. The whole thing seems to have been almost completely out of control. And I will never forget, I cannot forget, how back in March 2017, just as Russiagate was then cranking up and getting underway, Donald Trump tweeted that Obama had Trump's own telephone in Trump Tower tapped during the election. There were all these extraordinary flood of denials. Donald Trump was called paranoid and all sorts of things, and it was all based on rumor. Obama gave what I thought was an extraordinarily convoluted denial, which wasn't really a denial if you read it properly, if you went through the words carefully. But I think it's now absolutely clear that the degree of surveillance that was going on was just absolutely out of control. Not searching for anything. I think this is an important point I would make, because I have wondered at times whether maybe somebody was paranoid enough to think that there might actually be some kind of collusion between the Trump campaign team and the Russians. Well, maybe some people did, but I think what is more likely was going on is that they were looking for things they could twist to use against Trump, just as they used the black ledger that, Chalupa's friends in Ukraine produced against Manafort, against Trump. That's what I think was going on.
Yeah, it all comes back to Ukraine, the UK, and Australia. I'm telling you, that's where this
It
whole thing was cooked up. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Well, let's just take a step back and think that through, Alex. At the end of the day, who is Alexandra Chalupa? I mean, Alexandra Chalupa is obviously a bridge. She's obviously a liaison. She's obviously talking to the Ukrainians. She's working for the DNC. But I cannot personally believe, this is my own personal view, I cannot believe that the Ukrainian government and Ukrainian state institutions would have involved themselves in the US presidential election to the extent that they did, unless they received what they saw as a green light from the United States administration itself, from the US government. And that brings us back to Obama, to Biden, to John Kerry, to all these people.
Yeah, because they were running Ukraine at the end of the day. I mean, Biden was the de facto president of Ukraine.
Well, of course he was. He was actually coming, chairing cabinet meetings. If anybody just doubts it, you can find photographs of it. They were widely published. He was actually chairing cabinet minutes in Ukraine. He was, as we know, picking and choosing Ukrainian procurator generals and bragging about the fact that he was sacking them. So there we go. He was the person in charge. But as you said before, John Brennan was visiting Ukraine regularly. Victoria Nuland, whom we're going to be talking about fairly soon, she was visiting Ukraine too, all the time. Jeffrey Pyatt, of course, the famous and infamous ambassador, was there. But so lots and lots of other people. They were all going backwards and forwards to Ukraine, and we see some of the results. We see this black ledger appearing, alleging that Manafort had been involved in all kinds of illegal activities in Ukraine.
working with John Podesta, Tony Podesta, by the way.
Well, indeed. Well, there you go. So so we can see the black ledger. We see an attempt, as I said, to try and bring down Donald Trump in August 2016 through Manafort. It fails, and then we see the thing cranking up even further, going into overdrive as the election itself draws closer. And then when the election happens, and horror of horrors, Donald Trump wins. Of course, at that point, all hell breaks loose. And during the transition period, we get a concerted attempt to discredit Trump by all the people who'd been up to all these sort of things in the period running up to the election. So that's the underlying story. And can I repeat again, Russiagate, all these allegations that we've heard about in Russiagate were an attempt to distract attention from what was really going on. And Ukrainegate is the latest chapter in this campaign of distraction.
All right. I hope that Barr and Trump, Duran, and all these guys, they get to the bottom of it. I really hope, because if they don't, I think the U.S. is lost if they don't. That's my honest opinion.
Absolutely. I'm going to repeat what I've said on some of our videos, not all of which you can are there anymore, about the fact that, as I said, it is now a question. It now is a question of whether the United States is going to remain a constitutional republic ruled by law in which democracy continues to function, or becomes a national security state in which it is the national security bureaucracy which picks the president and decides what the policies of the United States are going to be.
Yeah, that's what's at stake here. No doubt about it. All right. Alexander Mercouris, Editor-in-Chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Guys, click on that subscribe button. If you're not subscribed, hit that like, share the video with everybody you know. Go to BitChute. There you will find all our videos. Also go to duranvideo.com. It's still in beta. It has some bumps, but it's coming along nicely. That is our own platform where we'll also have our videos there. But BitChute is fantastic. Duran Video is shaping up really nice. duranvideo.com. Alexander, very quickly, quick comments. PayPal, Patreon, Subscribe Star.
Absolutely.
SoundCloud, iTunes to get audio copies, and of course, Duran Shop to help us out.
Yes, and can I just reiterate about BitChute and Telegram and our own platforms? I mean, the reason why we're going to these platforms is because of some of the problems which we've encountered, which we've touched on this video. If you are having problems, if you're seeing things if you're no longer seeing things that you want to see, you can find them there. You can find them there. They're still there if you want to look for them. So we are going to these platforms in response to the pressures that are on us, but they are also intrinsically good platforms in themselves, as we are finding, and they are actually growing. All of them are. And impressively so. We are surprised at the rate of expansion that we're seeing there. So, I would strongly encourage you to do that, and so would Alex. But of course, there's also our wonderful shop with our great products. We can't avoid mentioning those. We're back. This is the my magic mug, 15 ounces, beautiful porcelain with the emblem of the Russian Federation there. Alex's magic mug, which he's drinking from, is the magic mug with the Alpha Force. That's Russia's equivalent of Delta Force, the US Special Forces Unit. Can I just also say, by the way, that I'm particularly dependent on this mug at the moment because it's the time of year in London where everybody goes down with a cold, and I would certainly not be able to do videos like I'm doing now for the Duran if I wasn't being sustained by tea, which I'm drinking from my marvelous, wonderful magic mugs. And of course, it's not just magic mugs. We have these beautiful polo shirts like the one I'm wearing. This one has the Duran double-headed eagle embroidered on it. We've got short sleeve t-shirts. We've got v-neck shirts, all 100% cotton, all extremely well made, all really smart to wear, or very comfortable. We've also got hoodies, and we've got hats, and we've got stickers. And Alex will tell you where you can find our shop and how you can buy these wonderful things.
TheDuranShop.com in the description box down below. Alexander Mercouris, editor-in-chief of the Duran. Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.